A very relatable man. TJ and his partner are an inspiration. And in this episode, he shares about his traumas from the distorted side of religion and the masculine communities he wished he had. He was healing from nihilism to love. Give it up for TJ Cole. The purpose of this, as you know, most of the spiritual communities that we know of are mostly our feminine sisters. And there's a huge need of our brothers to come in. There is a lot of us. We're doing a lot of the work, but it's not seen. It's very sparse and even behind the scenes. So I want to put us out there a little bit to show not only our sisters, but to inspire our brothers
Yeah,
that this is sacred work for ourselves. It's for ourselves, and it's also for everyone. This work we do for ourselves, for us first, assists us in all areas of our lives. And then a byproduct of that is how we show up for others in our life, especially our sisters, like our partners, our daughters, other divine feminine in our lives.
yeah, I really love that. I think a big part of us getting to that is recognizing that most things, even to this day, basically everything back in the day was run by men. I'd say like probably
Mhm.
90% of things today are still run by men, maybe even higher than that. I feel like there's a big reason why the spiritual community got dominated by women is because for so long it's been men that have been chasing, you know, money, power, and respect. That's sort of a thing that men are kind of raised up to always be chasing money, power, respect. Women have always been raised to, in the 50s, they were raised to be mothers and homemakers. And then obviously in the 70s, the feminist movement happened, which was fantastic. It got everybody talking and rebelling. It started trying to get everybody on equal footing, but we're still not there yet. Sorry, I'm kind of going off on a tangent here.
Oh, go off on a tangent. I want to hear that. Let's get
um,
passionate.
yeah, we've basically always been in charge, and we're trying to be in charge of the spiritual community because I think for the most part, we're trying to come from a place of overstanding and really trying to know the people around us and trying to heal together. And if we understand that men have caused the majority of problems, then that's a huge stepping stone for that. Does that make sense?
Why do you feel that personally?
I'm not sure. Mostly because I think kind of the way I was raised. I grew up in a church, in the Catholic Church, and a huge difference between Catholics and evangelicals and general other Christians, not just evangelicals. The Catholic God does not forgive, and he has routinely smited people down with floods and lightning and disease. And he was a terrifying person, and you didn't want to piss him off. It was all fire and brimstone unless you did everything that the adults were telling you to. Now, if my parents were to hear me talk like this, they would flip a shit. That's my experience, though. It was a really old school Catholic upbringing. Then, when I went to college, it was a Christian college, but the evangelical kind. And that is the God that forgives you, even if you have set an orphanage on fire
Hmm.
and laughed about it. And that caused me a good amount of cognitive dissonance because I pretty much ditched Catholicism at the age of 17, got into spirituality at a young age, and then decided to go to a Christian college where talking about spirituality was immediately shut down and you looked at like you had a third eye. So I figured, okay,
Hmm.
I'm going to
I mean,
give
you did have a third
Christian.
eye.
Yep, I sure did. And so I figured, okay, I'm going to give this flavor of Christianity a shot, not the Catholic version, this kind. And that didn't work out for a number of reasons. And I think a big part of that was because of the men in that community. Not necessarily my guy friends. I've healed a lot from the lacrosse team when I played there. It was always about being men of Christ, being tough. You could show emotion, but you were only allowed to cry like 5 tears max.
Are they counting?
Yeah,
Like
something
four
like
tears
that.
are good.
Like, whoa, whoa, man, you're going
That's a six
crazy.
tier right there, dude. You
Get
gotta
some
no.
pills. Yeah. The guys that I had with me were always super supportive. They were always there for me. I was always there for them. They were also always trying to push their morals and values down my throat.
Hmm.
They successfully convinced me to date to get married, not to date to get to know the girl better and then think about marrying her. And so it was constantly a whole bunch of guys 2, 3 years older than me, 1 year older than me, the same age as us, trying to tell each other how to live and how to be real men. Coming out of that institution, I eventually became agnostic, which eventually led me to becoming basically nihilistic because I just didn't think anything that would have mattered. I grew up Catholic, gave that a shot, tried to meditate a little bit at the age of 17, then tried Christianity. None of that worked. Also, none of my relationships really worked out. And so, what's the point in even forming a belief? What's the point in even trying if we're all really just going to die and be forgotten? So that's where I ended up as a result of the toxic masculinity that I've seen in the Christian circle, getting me to a point of thinking that there's no real point in trying because no matter what you do, someone's always just going to be disappointed. That's when I started smoking way more, drinking like a fish. When I lived in Harrisburg, I went overboard, partying every single weekend. Even after meeting my wife now, I was still partying way too hard. She encouraged me to slow down. Meaning it was a choice between, hey, slow the fuck down or I'm heading out. And I'm like, okay, cool. You're a lot more important to me than some weekends of having so much fun that you can't even fucking remember shit. So,
Yeah.
yeah, she got me to turn my life around and start digging back into what it means to be a man and to be a man in the spiritual community. Mostly because I've seen where the male leadership has taken, and it's just, I don't know, it feels so backwards in the Christian community. Even to this day, they're still putting women in their place. They're still
Hmm.
not allowing, most churches are still not allowing gays and trans people in. And it doesn't make any sense to me. Never has, which is why I left that community twice.
You bring up a really good perspective and angle of the distorted masculinity in spirituality, not just in spirituality, but in religion,
Yeah.
is this domineering control and even zealotry of I am right. It's rigidity too. That's where I feel our sisters leading the vanguard in the broad spectrum of spirituality. Because the divine feminine, after so long of being oppressed or being where they have been for way too damn long, desire that liberation and freedom. And spirituality is more all encompassing versus a dogmatic relationship with God. Because it's all our relationship with God is spirituality. Our God, ourself as God or as part of God. And there's a lot of control in a lot of the religions. And because as the feminine was suppressed in these, they, oh, we're going to go find our place somewhere else. And with the rise of consciousness in the past like 100 years, they found, they struck oil, they struck gold actually. There's a lot of teachings, a lot of new thought with people like Alan Watts, a lot of yogis that started this stuff, but I feel like the practice needed kind of that masculine rigidity in the beginning because spirituality even right now is evolving currently with us,
Yeah.
and it needed that, not in religion, I'm talking about spirituality with like yoga, chakras, as far as all of the east that's come over to the west. It needed that kind of pious rigidity at first to get anchored, but now as it's grown and blossomed through the 60s, the 70s, 80s, and it's gone through that, it's expanding more. We can see how in a lot of spiritual communities it can fall victim to what religion has, is that very dogmatic rigidity, my way or the highway, a very black and white binary thinking, which
Mhm.
is that distorted masculinity. It's kind of like caveman, like black, white, yes, no, fire, not fire. And it's control too, because it's control out of fear, out of wounding, out of whatever. And I think a lot of us, as humanity is collectively evolving, is sick of that. And so we're seeking new things. What would you have wanted as a man, even a young man? What would the world have been, or what would the relationships with men or with God or with other humans, what would you have wanted back then?
I would have wanted to be shown that there's a lot more than the Catholic Church for sure. I just grew up in a small town and I really didn't know any better. I had a friend in high school who passed away now, actually, back
Mm.
when I was in college. But he introduced me to this book called Change Your Aura, Change Your Life. Pretty markety, very, very marketable. But it introduced me to chakras. It was doing higher self meditation, is what it said. Talked about communicating with your higher self, the chakras, and everything. I took a buddy of mine who was just a year older than me in high school to tell me that that guy himself, everyone thought he was really cool, but they also knew that he was kind of an oddball at the same time. He was that cool artsy kid. He would dress like shit every day and make it look good. Told me about this book, actually ended up giving it to me. At that point in high school, I walked away from the Catholic Church and I was considering myself an atheist. And after I had meditated like that, I had wished that somebody would have showed me this book back in like sixth grade. Because as soon as I started meditating like this and focusing on my aura and focusing on my chakras, and I was really kind of just like doing what the book told me. And then I started doing my own thing with it as
Hmm.
I realized, oh, okay, like there's like a couple rules, but not really to this meditation thing.
Very different from what you came from.
Yeah, hugely. I got to do it on my own time. I didn't have to wake up on Sunday to do it. My grades just started getting better all of a sudden. I was focusing better with everything. I attributed that to the practice of meditation and focusing on my aura and my chakras. And then I went to a Christian college and just threw that all away.
But at least it sounds like it was seeded.
Yeah,
Fast forward knowing you now,
yeah,
it
it
was
was
definitely
seated.
seeded, yeah. So, TJ, something I want to reflect and mention
Yeah,
to the people watching is that when I first met you over a year ago, late summer of 2023,
yeah,
it was at a festival when I was doing a Reiki share, and your wife, your partner came, and I wasn't expecting you to do as well.
yeah. I'm level two.
And something I really loved about you is that you held this space with her. There was this devotion that you had with her, and the energy you also channeled was this. It's not like I haven't felt Reiki or energy healing from a divine masculine before, but it was very specific. Yours was this calm, steady, and present space holding that I really enjoyed.
For the both of us.
From you.
Ah.
I'm representing you right now, my man. Come on.
Oh, weird. That's crazy because I normally don't. That might be the Aquarius rising in me because I definitely don't always feel like that. Definitely don't always feel calm, especially if it's just been a long day at working with the kids and stuff. Like, I'll be on edge. I think from lacrosse and from just the rest of life, I've learned to not give a fuck. Have you ever read the book Subtle Art of Not Giving a Fuck? I think the
I have
author's name is
not.
Mark Ronson. Fantastic book. Very easy read. If you buckle down and want to finish it fast, you could probably finish it maybe a week. It's written like a big blog post. It's a counterintuitive approach because it's like stoicism, where you choose the things to really care about that you'll actually let yourself get mad over. And then the rest of the things can all fall to the wayside. Sometimes I give too much of a fuck, even to this day.
Is that okay though? How do you feel about that?
After reading it, I think I went way too much into the not giving a fuck, basically letting myself go and
Mm.
thinking, oh, well, life is meaningless. But
Nihilism.
the nihilism stuff, yeah. But nihilists, they will say that they don't give a fuck, but they will give a fuck about facing their own demons and trying to change. Because I think if you get to that point, you've got some demons in you, or you got some problems that you're dealing with. I don't know. It's just not. It just doesn't seem like the healthiest mindset to be. Like waking up and thinking nothing I do today matters, and I'm just gonna die and be forgotten. I was totally not in a healthy state of mind when I was waking up thinking that.
I personally, I don't like nihilism. It's like a bane of a lot of things that are healthy and serving. I
Yeah,
like the people that wake up and go, "What an amazing day." I have a brother
yeah,
of mine, he goes, "Every day is the best day of my life."
yeah,
And he means it, and he makes that the truth.
yeah,
Not through a forceful way, and it's not like false positivity. He's like, "I love being alive." He's walking
yeah,
on the beach. He's like, "Look at the sunset." He experiences hardships. He really does. And he goes, "That was a beautiful lesson. I'm so glad. It fucking sucked during it." But he's like, "I love that." And I
yeah.
love that. I love the zest and the thirst for life.
I wish I
The
had more of
excitement.
that.
We can all have that, brother.
Yeah,
Because a lot of men are like this. A lot of men are like this because we go from one end to the other. We're either, so the nihilists, we're either the aloof dad on the couch who's just turned on, who's just checked out, watching TV and will let anything happen. Or we're the egotistical, maniacal egomaniac who's conquering, taking, and taking advantage of everything. It's just like
hmm,
a complete, crazy, conquering, distorted asshole masculine, or the pussy that sits and does nothing. I feel like that's one of the biggest things of masculinity is we don't know the balance. But
yeah.
I feel
Very few know the balance. I don't even know the balance.
that's what we're here to learn, me guy.
Yeah, yeah,
You didn't want to be not giving a shit about nothing, but you didn't want to care so much that you were overly attached that it was like draining you. But that's
yeah,
where the balance comes in.
yeah. I figured I care about. After I met my wife, I healed a whole bunch of parts of myself that led to my nihilism. I realized, okay, I took that book a little too far. Book, yep, great book. I still recommend it. Don't take it as far as I did. Music, family, friends, my own health. But I still fluctuate with that. I'm finally taking care of my own body for the first time since like COVID.
Mm.
A lot of people thrived during COVID. I let myself go. I'm trying to lose 40 pounds now, but I'm also excited to get back into yoga and get myself in shape. And it's weird, the kind of mental gymnastics where I'm like 235 pounds now, and I'm only 5'10". which is not terrible, but it's definitely a lot heavier than I'd like to be at. And I'm thinking to myself, you're holding up 235 pounds right now. You're one strong motherfucker.
That's a great way of looking at it.
As I'm standing there, like in a squat, like just shaking and squatting my ass off. Like,
But you're doing it though. You're
yeah,
doing it. I can
yeah,
tell you from like a spiritual guy that's got it all together versus a guy who's down on his luck, who's out of shape. One of my biggest takeaways of men's work, I've been to like two men's things probably ever. And one of them was again at a festival, go figure. But there was all the different guys there. Imagine the festival guy, the guy with like the ponytail, the guys that look really like the bracelets. They look more of like they chose to be here. This one guy, and I'll never forget him. Red flannel button-up shirt, denim jeans, brown merle boots, mullet. This guy was a trucker,
yeah.
if my memory serves. And we went around to share. We never knew each other before. This wasn't a recurring meeting. This was a one-op. Get a little taste of men's work, men's group circles. And this didn't look like a guy who came to it. It was a yoga festival. So this wasn't a guy who would be there on his own. I assume his wife or his partner, like, he's there to support her. And he came time to share. And that's what he was saying, is that he was sharing all this stuff of how he wants to do better. Like he comes to things like this to better himself so he could show up for his wife and his daughters. And I could see in his face, he was red in the face, his eyes were almost bulging out. I remember, and he was like trying to hold back the tears because it was scary to him. To us
To be
men,
vulnerable. It was scary to be vulnerable.
yeah. And it was very new to him. A lot of men, especially from like his generation, you keep it all in. You be strong, especially because he's got a wife and daughters. He's got to hold all that in and be the strong, unbreakable foundation supporter or whatever. And it's not even just that. It's not even reason. You're a man. You don't cry. You don't share your feelings. It's not even on a lot of our radars. It's not even on the dash. But
Yeah,
it was just unfamiliar to him, and he was trying so hard. And to this, like sometimes it makes me want to cry because the beauty of this man trying, because he didn't care. He didn't care that it was scary. He didn't care that he was at some like yoga festival with a bunch of young people that he was like being vulnerable. He didn't give a shit about that. He cared about doing something to better himself, if not for himself, so he could show up to his wife and his daughters better.
yeah.
And
And
he would
honestly,
go
it
through
was
the
beautiful.
fire and flames for that. And to this day, like that is more manly, that is more divine than a lot of these people. Like you got a great vinyasa, you got all this stuff, you can do breath work, you can meditate for 10 hours. Fuck that shit. This is a man.
Yeah,
He was more manly than probably most of the, I mean, divine masculine, more manly than most of the fuckers there. And
yeah.
I'll never forget him as long as I live. I don't know his name. But this guy I was so impressed with. And that's what I'm saying to you. You don't have to be like in shape, but the fact you're fucking doing it though. You
Exactly.
are, yeah.
Yeah.
And
And
that's worth
I feel like
so
Uncle
much
Iroh.
more.
I kind of want to just look like Uncle Iroh when I'm that age and be like Uncle Iroh. Honestly, like I think if we're to think of a cartoon character who is a divine masculine, Iroh for sure.
Yeah. Very divine masculine, I would say.
Definitely like top three best character in any show or book of all time.
It's very quotable too. Last time we saw each other, when we were at the festival, you had this realization with your partner, and you really wanted to share it with me.
Oh yeah, this kind of comes back into my lacrosse team story. And if somehow this clip of a podcast somehow gets all over people's For You pages on YouTube, so be it. But my lacrosse team, they were my best friends for 4 years. And at the same time, my biggest critics of all time. they would support me in lacrosse in school. I would support them in lacrosse in school. Obviously, it was a Christian college. We would support them with our faith, but I was constantly, like I said earlier, felt like I had morals and values being shoved down my throat at every single angle. Even just perfectly normal college things like having a Tinder, going out drinking, and I think the whole alcohol is taboo concept made me drink even more on that dry campus. Oh boy. Anyhow, sorry, flashback. Um,
Defiance.
yeah, the defiance. Like, oh, you can't tell me what to do.
I'm gonna go to my own campus with all the Tinder dates and all the alcohol.
Yeah. Also, sometimes it was more fun just sneaking alcohol around than it was actually getting drunk. Go figure.
Freedom. Again, going
Yeah.
back to the freedom.
Yeah. Why don't you just make it legal on campus and then you won't have a bunch of 21-year-olds sneaking alcohol? But sorry, I'm getting off track. Or maybe not, because like I was doing that and on the lacrosse team and definitely putting myself into a lot of troublesome situations. I was getting judgment after judgment, and it wasn't the kind of parental judgment where they would just yell at you for stuff and hope that you'll eventually change. It would be like gaslighting. It goes, it'd be like, we're trying to help you grow, bro. We're trying to help you grow. You shouldn't have this and that. Do you really want to explain to your future wife you were like this?
And to my knowledge, she's cool with it.
Yeah. Yeah. So like who hasn't had a Tinder account like before they were married? So it was a ton of guilt and just made to feel like I wasn't enough all the time. Killed my esteem. Part of the reason why I think I let myself go so much when I lived in Harrisburg. Um, that's what eventually led me down to being a nihilist. The whole time I realized that I was mad at my old friends because they didn't know what they were doing, but they put me through a lot. And that was the profound moment that I had at Carnival. Was I was talking to my wife. I said, "Wait, they didn't know what they were doing. Like they were just a bunch of other 18 to 22 or 23-year-olds that only were telling me what they knew. And you don't know what you don't know, and you only know what you know, you know? So they were only operating off of their own limited perspectives, their own limitations, because they were the same age as I was. So how could I be mad at them for that? And so that's when I realized that you and a few other guys popped into my head. Even a couple guys from that lacrosse team were some of the men who are like, wait, like I know I'm very unbalanced, but I also know that I know a lot. And I know that there's a bunch of other balanced men around me as well. And I saw you and three or four other guys as some of them.
Well, thank you.
Yeah,
And that's a really important thing is it's time for the men to build community together.
yeah,
Because as our sisters have been doing a lot of spiritual work, not just the liberation, but anchoring in this new age, expanding consciousness, unlocking latent abilities, all the stuff they've been doing for decades now. I feel the divine feminine is rather haggard at the moment. They've been through the trenches, they've been through all parts of war, and now they're coming back. They're like, all right, tap out. Come on, divine masculine. Can you guys pick up a little bit of the slack? And it's time for us brothers to rise up with them.
yeah. Especially on these practical scales too. There's that witchy shop in Hanover, Pennsylvania that got sued, and it was a woman-owned shop. She was selling tarot, and who but a bunch of Christian men are coming in to try to put her shop down. She fought back tooth and nail, won this case, and is now actually more successful because of it.
So the bad press gave her exposure.
Uh-huh. I guess to your point, in that instance, she didn't really need anyone's help. She was doing it all on her own. In our role in that type of capacity, we really should just be their cheerleaders.
Yes.
I'm my wife's biggest cheerleader. She's making a tarot deck, and I'm editing the guidebook. And if I get even like an inkling of an impression that a person I'm talking to is into tarot, I've got her Instagram handle like ready to write down. Running on the back of my own business card.
I love that. You're absolutely right, because that's a big thing. Coming from the old paradigm, the men would do everything. No, I got it, dear. I got this. No, our sisters deserve to have everything, the freedom to be sovereign in their power, and if anything, because like completely sovereign, completely autonomous, we don't need to do anything except be their cheerleader. And of
Yeah.
course, we'll be there for when they do need us or whatever. But that's the beauty of it. To be like, go girl. That's what I tell my sisters. When my sisters are posting stuff or doing stuff online, I'm like, go girl, go get it, girl. I'm
Yeah.
just like, go for it.
Crush it.
Crush it.
I'm like that with my wife all the time, and I'll pitch in for her all the time. Like, if it has things to do with numbers and stuff like that, she'll normally have me take a look at it, and we'll both try to figure out the math and stuff together because neither of us are really great at math. But like, I write things down and get a calculator out and eventually kind of figure it out. And she does a whole bunch of things for me around the house. I didn't even ask her to do. She's taking care of the bills. Like, I'm working 40 hours a week, but she's basically keeping track of where the money's going. So, I mean, I love that. Like, I don't care if it back in the 50s in my grandparents' time, God forbid if the wife touched your debit card. Holy shit. You get it a lot.
So, with your wife, you guys are a really great couple being around. And you even had this amazing, like she posted on her Instagram, I saw this story of how the two of you met.
Yeah, we met at a music festival and it was in the woods. I heard her laugh from like down in the woods, like across the way. So I just followed the sound. And when I saw her, I just thought she was beautiful. And so we went on a walk that night, slept in the same tent, got fake married the next day. What was interesting is I got lost in a hammock. Sort of might not have fallen asleep in a certain way there. And the wedding became all too real for me with the way the conditions and everything were. But that night, I unloaded. This was when I was a nihilist, by the way. It was also my very last night of being a nihilist. I released like 25 years worth of trauma into my wife's arms. Keep in mind, second night I've ever met her, and I'm crying in her arms, talking about how I just spent so much time in a church and I have no idea how to function anymore. And in my head, I'm thinking, why don't you shut the fuck up? You're kind of killing it right now for yourself. Turns out, in terms of landing a wife, that was the right move. But also, just in terms of healing, she literally just held me, rubbed my back, and said, "This is your healing. This is your healing. Like, everything else is going to get better from here." And she probably thought that she was never going to see me again after that festival. And I had a feeling that I was definitely going to see her again. The story started out with me deciding that I was going to go to this music festival. And I was walking around the woods and I heard a laugh. I went and followed it. And I instantly saw her and felt something. Something told me that I was going to marry her.
I will never forget when he was like, "Do you want to go adventure with me?" And I just remember feeling like, yes, I want to go adventure. We were having this like silly little argument. He said, we're already arguing like a married couple. So then I looked at him and I was like,
oh my gosh, should we get married? And then, so we got married in front of a whole bunch of
No,
strangers.
you missed a really important part.
Which was the important part?
You didn't show up.
Oh yeah. I got lost in a hammock. It really did feel like a summer camp for us when we were there. And like leaving was like, oh my God.
I know, it totally was. Like...
We go to different schools. Actually, she totally thought she was going to see me again. I forgot. We just had that feeling that we were going to see each other again. It felt like the end of summer camp.
I really want to touch on this subject. How has being a father changed your life?
So it's not like my patience level has risen or fallen anymore. But when it comes to things out in the real world, I just don't really give a shit as much about it anymore because I have my kids to worry about. It has definitely made me softer and more compassionate with people. I have become a lot. Having a daughter makes me want to set the world on fire, not because I have a daughter, but because of the world my daughter has to live in. Having a son is a little different because I really just want to raise a polite boy that doesn't yell at his mom when he's a teenager. I think we're well on the way for that. So it has made me more compassionate, especially towards like a mom or a dad, or if I see kids coming from a family that looks like the parents might have a lot going on and they're probably not able to be good parents at the time. I don't know. I feel bad for more kids. I'll end up watching other people's kids as I'm watching my own kid at the park just because it's like a protector mentality.
So stewardship.
If I notice my kids are playing with another kid, I'm just going to assume protection over that kid. Not like a lion is going to come out and try to eat him, but if he like falls down really hard and needs an adult, I can be that adult to like
You assume
pick
a
him up.
responsibility.
Yeah, to pick him up. And then the parent will be here and I'm like, oh, hey, your kid banged his head. I guess that's one way that it changed me.
I feel that's a big thing. Is a lot of the old masculinity is mine versus yours, but this taking responsibility for our community and other life forms like other children
Yeah.
is a new step in a new era of masculinity.
Yeah. And like having seen how much more work my wife does around the house, cooking, cleaning, and for the kids, it's made me really empathize more with mothers, especially in my job. Like I make cold calls at the door and I'm starting like my bullshit detector isn't perfect, but if a parent, notably even this day and age, a mother is burnt out and stressed and just not in a capacity to talk about solar power, I can usually tell if they're just trying to bullshit me or not.
Yeah.
Because sometimes they'll just be like, I don't have the time, I can't do it. And I'll see that the TV's on. I was like, no, man. They're like, just tell me you hate solar power so I don't have to come back. But if she's holding a baby, I feel like an asshole trying to get a sale. And there are people out there who will try to make a sale if the person is clearly frazzled and looking at you like this. And how do you even expect to have a good interaction when they're like that? Just move on. You're not even going to get good energy, and she's just going to get pissed off at you. Just give him your card real
Swipe
quick.
next.
Yeah. Like, give him your card real quick. Be like, hey, sorry I caught you at a bad time. Blah, blah, blah. It's for solar power. You don't have to know where you keep the bills. It's totally fine. I'll be back after your husband gets home from work. See ya. Being a dad has made me just be able to sympathize with them. Like, okay, you're busy. You've got the kids going on. I hear them running around. If you're not willing to quickly pull out your electric bill and get qualified here, then we're just not going to do it. I don't care. I always move on.
Do you care to share about you on your spiritual journey right now?
Yeah, it's been tough lately because There's been a lot of people that have come out of the woodwork in the spiritual community that have proven to not be the types of person that they've presented themselves to be. It's been hard for me to reconcile, and it's gotten me relatively cynical lately. I continue working in this capacity because I'm stubborn, and it's something where like I want to try to make things better. And I'm also going to be there for my wife, as well as she's making the tarot deck and working in that capacity. I think something that I've learned this past year is knowing who the real ones are, I should say, and being more selective about the people we hold space for. Like we're holding space for each other here. You obviously know that you are far from the people I'm referring to at all.
Oh, thank God! I thought you were talking about me.
I might even sound like the people that I'm describing right now. I've been trying to go inward mostly, doing my power yoga, and I'm going to check out this rocket yoga too. Really trying to physically improve because I know that it's going to mentally and spiritually help me as well. I've been meditating a little bit more, not as much as I'd like to. Also, what's really awesome is since I'm editing my wife's tarot guidebook, I'm reading all the definitions of the tarot cards, embarrassingly for the first time. And it's actually making me think of my journey through the church. Do you know the basics of tarot stuff?
I know that the major arcana go in order in a story. The Fool starts at zero, and that's like the hero's journey.
It's actually awesome. I love that. So you know a good amount to start out with. When I went to college, I was the fool.
That
And
makes sense. That's
then,
our journey as sovereign beings. We go we're out of our parents. The Fool,
yeah,
ooh, college, yeah, walking off the cliff, taking a leap.
yeah. And the magician is when I started. The definition here is it signifies you have everything you need in order to materialize your own goals. My goals were nothing but school and lacrosse, which I was doing. I mean, it wasn't getting all American and stuff like that, but I was doing fine with it. And then it just pretty much keeps on going on. Like there's the tower, which is when my relationship fell apart. And I'm like, wow, what happens right before the tower? Oh, the devil, temptation and fear.
The falsehoods, the illusions, yeah.
And then what happens after the tower? And I'm like, the star, hope, faith, inspiration, purpose. So it was like after I graduated college, after everything fell apart, I had some kind of hope for my future. And then I went through the moon and the sun and the world. Basically, the fool's journey ends with the world. And that was when I had quit my job at the greenhouse and moved to Harrisburg and started taking music more seriously. And then I was the fool again. But right before that point, I had done all the work that I needed to do in order to leave my parents' house, move to Harrisburg,
Yeah.
quit the job that I had at the time. And oh, yeah, I wonder what card I was on when I met my wife.
Lovers?
Oh wait, yeah, actually that was probably lovers.
Because that sounds like that's in the process in there too, especially the order.
Yeah, it's completely right there actually, because yeah, I was the fool when I moved into Harrisburg, then the magician when I found my own job and I started making money doing music. The high priestess was in the middle of that summer when I ignored my intuition and
Hmm.
got myself into a bunch of trouble. Empress,
That's the
Emperor,
high
King,
priest is in
Queen.
reverse.
Yeah, so I probably had that one in reverse at the time for me. Empress,
Emperor.
Yeah, that was probably Upside Down. The Emperor, then after that, that was probably up. And then Lovers was up, so yeah.
But isn't it funny how you said that after the world, it kind of reinvented itself and you became the fool again because it's like a cycle because it goes up like a spring.
Oh
So
yeah.
it's like you come back around but at a different level, and it does that more and more.
That's what Lateralis by Tools based on like the 1357 or the 135813. Oh no, Fibonacci sequence.
Yeah,
Is the
369.
spiral. Yeah.
Is that correct? Forgive me
Well,
if that's not correct, but and yeah, the Fibonacci, correct. Yeah.
yeah, I love the Fibonacci sequence, especially
Hmm.
when Tool decided to use that in one of their songs. That was very nerdy of them.
Yeah. Had a good old Tool phase for me.
I believe it.
That was a good summer.
I love Tool. They're honestly a great band to meditate to and
Yeah.
to like do yoga to.
I was in a microdosing program where they wanted you to add a song to the Spotify list that the collective group would listen to while you're microdosing. And there was like meditation music, it was all calmer or kind of jazz or like chill pop. It wasn't anything super energetic. And I was like, I want to do Tool, but it wasn't the vibe. Because I wanted like a little heavier
Yeah,
songs.
I need that if I'm microdosing because I need something. I'm a drummer. I need something with rhythm
Mm.
and percussion. I need a beat.
And something primal. That's the heart. The drum's the heart, man.
Uh-huh. It's the
Yeah.
heart and the backbone at the same time.
Backbone.
Yeah.
I did not know that. That makes sense.
I've always told my students it was the backbone since it holds the rest of the song up.
I love that. Yeah.
Yeah.
Are you a music teacher?
I used to be one before COVID messed it up. I kept my students on Zoom on my iPad for as long as I possibly could once COVID hit. But eventually, I was just down to two students that I was seeing, and it was just me going into my room with a practice pad and my iPad, and I'm like, hang on, I'm not even teaching these guys anything. Like, I'm making them do hands drills on an iPad. I don't have the resources to teach effectively anymore. Teaching would have been something I did in another life if COVID hadn't happened. I wasn't in the cards this time around. Maybe when I'm
Maybe it's in the
yeah,
cards.
yeah, when I'm like 40 or 45 and it comes back around, because I do have a basement that I could teach out of. But right now, I just want to get creative again and make fun drum videos.
As a man, STJ, what is your message, a divine masculine message to our brothers in the spiritual community or to any brother who'd be watching this?
I would say to the men in the spiritual community, I have no idea what it is that we're all doing day to day, week by week, but just with any other idea that you want to spread, it helps when you are going out into society, into public spaces, and just having these conversations with people that just haven't heard it before. It doesn't have to be a soapbox moment at a small dive town bar after a couple drinks. It can just be like you're sitting with the boys watching football and halftime show is really boring and you're just talking about shit. For the men outside the spiritual community, I would say that you don't have to be spiritual or even call yourself spiritual to better yourself and to grow as a man and to heal. I think that's a big
Mm.
thing that a lot of people aren't really conscientious about, especially men. A lot of us are unhealed. Most of us are. I don't, hardly anybody's 100% healed. Otherwise, we'd have a lot less problems in this world. I think men need to try to sit there and think about ways in which that I don't want to sound like a coach and say we got to think of how we can improve, but I almost want to encourage people to think of where we're not healed. Think of like why haven't I gotten the courage to talk to this chick or try to strike up some romantic relationship with this person? Like a lot of men tend to run away from that. They'll drink, do drugs, a bunch of porn, or they'll will gamble. Holy shit, I had no idea how many of my guy friends have gambling problems. Like every sports fan ever has a gambling problem. It's kind of hilarious, but it's also kind of not.
Well, we'll get there.
Like my kids, I've never once thought to gamble on a sport ever, and I'm like a diehard Eagles fan. But I guess that would be my message to men. Like, you don't have to go on a magic $80,000 retreat in Costa Rica. You don't need to meet a tarot chick at a bar who tells you to call your mom and ask her what time you're born. And like healing doesn't have to always look like that. And I think
Yeah.
a big problem with men is they think that you're gonna have to be a hippie and stop eating meat and get a Buddha statue. You really don't. You just have to start being more vulnerable. Like your own spirit itself, your own soul will grow and get fulfilled if you start opening your heart up and just start being more vulnerable, try to be more compassionate. And this is going to sound like tough love, but like I do it on myself all the time. I wake up to do yoga and I tell myself, let's go, motherfucker.
Let's go, motherfucker.
Like some men need a kick in the ass to get going. I know I'm one of them.
Yeah.
My message to women in general, which feels kind of awkward to say, just on the base that we're two men doing this, but my message from myself to women is I'm sorry for everything that men have put you through. It's absolutely not fair. I know I'm also guilty of that as well. I've probably, knowingly and unknowingly have definitely put women through some shit. I'm not gonna act like I'm some kind of a saint. And that's kind of my only message, really. And I'm ready to stand here with Matt and whoever else. And if, I have faith that we're not going to be the only two guys that are going to sit here and listen and stuff like that. But I really want to stress that we're here to listen. And I don't want to try to sound, yeah, I think that's pretty much what I'm going to stop. But yeah, like we're just here to listen. We should have been here to listen a much longer time ago. I think my sister did a great job in helping me listen to women because she went to a feminist college. But I think, yeah, no one's listening in general, but especially men. Men aren't listening. So, yeah, just I guess I'm sorry and we're here to listen. That almost sounds pandering.
I mean, but it was raw. It was beautiful.
Yeah.
Well, shit. Thank you, man.
Ah, thank you. This was, yeah, I didn't really know what to expect, to be honest.
But that's part of the bravery.
Yeah. I think I unpacked a little bit of things for myself here with this conversation as well.
Much needed.
Yeah.
It's good. It's cathartic for not only you, but for all who will listen. And
Yeah.
I thank you for being vulnerable and brave with me.
Yeah.
Like I learned some things. I
Yeah.
feel.
Oh, another message to men, try not to fall into nihilism. Not a good idea. If you start thinking that nothing you do matters, you might just be depressed. And that's okay. But it's better to identify that than to just full on dive into nihilism.
Yeah.
Not the best philosophy that exists.
Put it
But
lightly.
the presence of nihilism implies the existence of pure enlightenment.
I like that.
Yeah, I'm sure someone else has said that before, but now we
Oh,
got it
maybe
on the
TJ's the
table.
first.
Yeah,
Of course, yeah.
yeah.
Well, thank you, TJ, so much, dude, for being here, my brother. It
Thank
was an honor
you.
to have you. And thank you all for being here and listening to this. So thank you, TJ.
Thank you.
MC Warrior of the Light out. If this episode and series resonates with you, and you're interested in delving more into men's work, I will be creating an online men's group program coming up here very soon. So if you're interested in that, you can reach out to me via email that I'll flash here on the screen now and link below. I would love to talk to you if you had any questions, meet you, and learn more about you and what you would like from your healing experience and journey as a man who is awakening to his fullest and greatest potential. And to connect with other brothers who are like-hearted. And if you would like to work one-on-one with me, I offer distance energy healing sessions over Zoom, and you can reach out to me via email to inquire about those as well. And for all my other content, you can check out here on YouTube. For my other podcasts interviewing other healers and their gifts and medicine that they could offer you, to series about what I envision and I feel New Earth and the New World could be like through a few short stories and chapters, to discussing with other spiritual and new thought leaders about what is going on and how we can address, see, and live our best lives here and now. Thank you so much. Have a great day.